It's the best fucking time of the year. NHL playoffs. And let's get right into this shit. So, I look at a couple things when I'm picking a Stanley Cup champ. Because if you notice any type of theme, it's consistent every fucking year. If you win the cup, you gotta have really good centers, really good defensemen, and a great fucking goalie. That every year, there is no exceptions to this rule. So, with that being said, let's get started. Flames and the Avalanche, they beat the Avalanche in 5. The Avalanche have a fucking bright future, obviously. We all know about that, but Flames are way too fucking much to handle for them, so they beat them in 5. Then we go over to San Jose and Vegas. Everyone thinks Vegas is this fucking, this underdog that we all gotta love them. We all gotta pick them. They're gonna get fucked. I think they sneak out 2 games in this series, but I think it's a pretty dominant win by the Sharks. Sharks are very well built. Very well built. Then we go over to Nashville, Smashville. Dallas has one good line. That's it. And you know what happens to teams like that? They do not go deep in the playoffs, especially when you're playing a pretty fucking deep team in the first round. So they lose in 5 or 6. Then we go over to Winnipeg. They beat St. Louis in 6. Winnipeg is also so perfectly built. Oh my god, they remind me so much of the Capitals last year. Big. Huge. Who's the think about their centers. Shifley, 6'2", 6'3". Kevin Hayes is 6'5". You've got fucking... Oh, what's his name? I'm fucking blanking. But the bottom 6, filled with huge physical players who are going to cycle and grind it out. And you're not going to want to play that in the playoffs, exactly what the Caps did last year. Going over to the East, Tampa sweeps Columbus. Columbus is just a shit team in the playoffs. They're never going to win shit unless they can really change the culture there. And then Washington absolutely spanks the shit out of Carolina. Karma's going to happen. You start selling after every fucking win, you're going to get spanked. Especially when you're not even a good team compared to what you're up against. Washington is going to steamroll them. If there was one series I had to pick a sweep, it would be this one. I think it's gonna be a sweep. Clean fucking sweep. Dominant in every game. Then we go over to Pittsburgh and the Islanders. Listen, Barry Trotz is the coach of the year. The Islanders have had a fucking unbelievable turnaround, especially after losing John Tavares, but Pittsburgh turns it up in the playoffs. They do this every year. They shit the bed a little bit into the playoffs, and then they turn it up to another level. And I think that's going to happen again this year. They win in 6. Then you look at the West in the second round here. San Jose Calgary is going to be a 7-game grinder. I don't know which way it's going to go, but I'll say San Jose. They're so fucking perfectly built. They have depth everywhere, and they have fucking superstars everywhere. As long as Martin Jones can play well, which he did in the playoffs a few years ago and last year, so I think they can be a very dangerous team. Winnipeg, Nashville, we already saw this. 6 games this time, though. Winnipeg wins. I do not trust Pecorino, especially against the Jets. I don't know what it is about them. He just chokes. He just does not like to see the Jets. So they win. They get to the conference finals. Pittsburgh beats Washington in 7 in another classic Pens-Caps series that the Penguins end up winning. And then, oh my god, I'm retarded. I forgot fucking Toronto-Boston. Toronto beats Boston in 7. Just the only reason I have is because everyone thinks Boston's going to win. So you can't just expect a team like the Maple Leafs, who are a fucking good team, to get stomped like that. And also, last year, the reason they lost is because Austin Matthews was hurt and he could not handle that Bergeron line. They were way too much for him, but Tavares and Marner can definitely handle him. And Matthews is going to be a huge threat. I think they win that series. Boston isn't very deep. And Toronto was the best defenseman in that series. Now we look at Tampa, Toronto. Listen, the only teams that have a chance against Tampa are big physical teams, because no matter how skilled you are, you're not as skilled as Tampa. Toronto is not going to win that series. They lose in 5 or 6. And then Tampa and Pittsburgh, same scenario. Pittsburgh is just a very skilled team, but Tampa's too much to handle if you're not beating them physically like the Washington Capitals did last year. So Tampa wins that. They go to the finals for the finally they get there again. And Winnipeg beats San Jose. And Winnipeg wins the Stanley Cup. Listen, Hellebuck is a fucking great goalie, especially in the playoffs. They've got such mean defensemen. Oh my god. You do not want to go in front of the net with Dustin Byfuglien and Tyler Myers, and Trouba's a big boy. And Bolio is a fucking great addition. And then you look at the bottom 6, like I said before, they're just going to grind it out. They remind me so much of the Caps last year. They are like almost carbon copies. It's just their centers are big fuckers instead of skill players. And instead of Ovechkin, they have Blake Wheeler. They are so similar. They're going to get better in every series because they're going to grind you out. They're going to be so annoying to play against. You're going to be sore after every game. You're not going to want to go in the corners. Like the LA Kings, all those teams, the big fucking teams that win the Stanley Cup. I think Winnipeg brings the cup back where it belongs. Back to Canada. For the first time since fucking, 93, I think. Where it fucking belongs.